Great middleweight matchup this weekend, guys. We got Kelvin Gastelum taking on Robert Whittaker in what could be a title eliminator. Nick and I are breaking that fight down and giving our predictions right now. What's up, Barnhill family? Welcome back to the channel.
Yo.
We got a great one at middleweight, Nick. We've got
nice.
Kelvin Gastelum. He's coming off of his first win in a little bit of time, actually, and he's going to be taking on Robert Whittaker, who has been perfect over the last how many years, except for one blemish, and that being to the champ, Israel Adesanya. This is a great matchup.
Oh, yeah. Such a great matchup. There's a ton of fights this weekend. I'm happy to see that even though there's some novelty exhibitions taking place, there's also a real number one contenders match happening, and that's obviously Kelvin Gastelum fighting Robert Whittaker. Robert Whittaker's obviously the best middleweight in the world, not named Israel Adesanya. And Kelvin Gastelum's got a tall order against him to see if he can beat him and get another crack at Izzy. You know, Izzy's doing one of those crazy things where he's run through the top contenders or the current top contenders at the division right now, and he's going to have to start running through them again, kind of like how George St. Pierre did.
Right.
And I feel like both of these guys with a win this weekend could wind up back in there with Izzy sooner than later, probably this year. But I think for the parody and for the sport and the promotion, the storytelling, and because it's been longer time between the fights, that the Kelvin Gastelum story is a little bit easier to tell than the Robert Whittaker one. But either way, we really can't go wrong with either opponent.
Definitely not. And from a storytelling standpoint, you're absolutely right. On paper, Robert Whittaker is the better fighter than Kelvin Gastelum.
Right.
He was the champion in this weight class. He's the favorite at minus 260 to plus 210. So people are expecting Whittaker to win this fight. But when you look at history and what Israel Adesanya, that's one common opponent that they have, what Adesanya did to both of them, he knocked out Robert Whittaker. That's a whole different story from Adesanya right before the fifth round started with a busted up face looking across to Kelvin and saying, I'm going to win this round because I'm prepared to die in there. That's some idea of what type of fight Kelvin Gastelum brought to Adesanya, and then comparing that to the knockout of Robert Whittaker and the fact that it's been a longer period of time. Even though Kelvin's 1-3 in his last four, I think the rematch with Kelvin is more compelling than the rematch with Robert, even though Robert is expected by many to win this fight.
Yeah, and a lot of people look at Izzy kind of for what Izzy's career is going to do next, because he, seems to have more of a grip on his career and what he's doing with his fights in the future than most people and most champions for that matter. And I feel like Izzy almost wants to get the Kelvin fight again because he so recently beat Robert in such a dominant fashion. I feel like he thinks that now he's probably leaps and bounds where he above where he was when he fought Kelvin, and could probably finish Kelvin in a more devastating fashion, quicker, just like he's been doing with a lot of the other opponents at 185. But the part about this matchup that I really like is that Kelvin Gastelum on any given night can beat pretty much anybody in the division, or in the the couple of divisions that he was bouncing back and forth from.
Definitely.
And then Robert Whittaker has proven that he absolutely can do that with Izzy being the one exception. And you look at both of their recent records, and Roberts looks really good. He's the Grim Reaper for all 185ers not named Izzy. I mean, he is taking all of the best fighters. You look at his last fights, they're Yoel Romero, everybody besides Izzy, he's beating them, and they're all the toughest, scariest guys at 185. And Kelvin Gastelum is going to bring a different style than a lot of the guys he's seen. He's actually a little smaller than a lot of the guys Roberts fought recently, and I think that it's just going to make for a much different fight than what we've seen Robert Whittaker in recently.
I think you're right. I think this is going to be a very tough fight. I don't typically say that fight of the night's going to be the main event. I don't see how this one's not fight of the night.
Yeah.
Both these guys are incredibly hard to finish. Kelvin has never been KO'd. When you think of Kelvin, you think of him as a veteran. He's actually not even 30 yet. He's only 29 years old. He was super young when he came into the sport and when he came into the UFC, and he's been competing at the highest levels since. Robert Whittaker, obviously, as you mentioned, he's the Grim Reaper of 185. He beats everybody not named Izzy. I affectionately call him the Daniel Cormier of the 185 division, because Daniel Cormier, when John Jones is off doing whatever it is John Jones is doing, he's the champion. Cormier is the champion. And then when John comes back, he reclaims his title. I feel like Whittaker is the number one contender / gatekeeper because he can beat everybody beneath him, but he can't beat the champion. It's a really unique situation that's happening at 185, and I truly don't think Whittaker can beat Izzy. I think that the styles make matchups thing is so very true in this situation, and that's why I think that Marvin Vettori's win over Kevin Holland kind of makes for an interesting dynamic in this whole situation, because I think if Kelvin comes out there and he beats Whittaker in emphatic fashion, they are going to pass up on Vettori and give the title shot to Gastelum, even though he will have a losing record in his last 5. Whereas if Robert Whittaker grinds out a close decision, I could see them, because, as you said, it's been so recent and it was such a devastating knockout, giving the guy that lost a split decision in Vettori the nod over Whittaker. How do you see that?
Yeah, that's tough, and I think you're right. I think if this goes to a 5-round decision, kind of like Vettori's victory did, and it was dominant, but it was still nothing spectacular, performance-wise, then it's going to be a toss-up. Like I said earlier, it's going to kind of depend on what Izzy says, what he wants to do, and kind of the direction he wants to go with that. I feel like there is an opportunity for new faces to kind of try to poke their head out. And, obviously Darren Till's out right now, but I feel like if Kelvin doesn't make a statement or Robert doesn't make a statement, because Vettori didn't make a major statement, it was a dominant performance, fantastic. He did what he needed to do to beat a very tough Kevin Holland. But, people are looking for the Joaquin Buckley type of knockouts, the crazy Kevin Holland from the ground knockout of Jacare to really elevate you into the next spot. And I feel like if this fight, doesn't live up to the hype that we think it probably will, then they might be looking for, okay, let's see where Izzy wants to go. If he can pick one of these two guys, or maybe we'll just send Darren Till in there because he's one of the only guys in the division that hasn't gotten a crack at Izzy. And we think with the body type and obviously the promotion, that would be a great big fight. So it really just depends. I feel like this will be a great fight. You said fight of the night. I could definitely see that happening, but Jeremy Stevens is on this card, and So I was he's the bonus king. The UFC put out a video of all of his bonuses from fight of the nights, performance of the nights, knockouts of the nights, all of that stuff. He's got a gang of them, and obviously he's been in the game for a long time. But anytime he's on the card, you don't want to bet against him getting the fight of the night bonus, because he's always in some wars.
That is for sure. Maybe he'll get lucky and get a KO and get the performance of the night so that the main event can get fight of the night. But you can't discount little heathen Stevens.
No.
Who the F is that guy? Right. Everybody knows who he is at this point, and he has some absolute highlight reel, not just knockouts, but fights in general. Some classic all-time great fights. So you very well could be right. He might steal the show here.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to predict Robert Whittaker to win this fight. He is the -260 favorite. When I look stylistically at the match, Robert Whittaker tends to fight in bursts. He kind of comes forward in a very unorthodox way, throwing heavy shots and moving forward all at the same time, mixing up punches, kicks, elbows, closing the distance. Kelvin's very good at boxing and staying in a nice boxing range and like enjoying being inside and mixing it up and trading shots. So I see a lot of heavy leather being thrown here, but I don't see Gastelum's never been KO'd. I don't see it happening this time, but I do see Robert Whittaker winning 4 of the 5 rounds to get a unanimous decision. I think he's just a little bit better fighter in all aspects than Kelvin Gastelum, but it's certainly going to be a good fight nonetheless.
So a long fight to cap off the night of fights.
I think so. I think we see all 5 here.
Okay. It's hard to bet against Robert Whittaker, and I'm so happy that they've given Robert exactly what he wants. After he lost to Izzy, he wasn't clamoring for an immediate rematch. Of course, he would have taken that, but after his first victory after that, he's like, you know what, I understand that we just had business together and it didn't go my way. Let me just keep beating people, and eventually he'll become undeniable again, and then it'll be time for him to get another crack, which I do fully believe he will get. But Kelvin Gastelum spoils parties all the time. And, you just look at a 29-year-old fighter's career generally doesn't have the names that Kelvin Gastelum's record has on it. I mean, he's got a crazy list of some legends.
Right. And when we say he's 1-3 in his last 4, we should mention that those 3 are Jack Hermanson, Darren Till, and Israel Adesanya.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's 3 bums. He's been fighting the top of the top for quite some time.
The absolute best. And I just feel like he's one of those guys that is weird with his range, and he's really good, crisp with his boxing. And I think he's probably working on how to strike effectively moving backwards when he's getting burst and sprinted at by Whittaker. And even though I would probably love to see these guys go 25 minutes straight, and I think it's pretty likely, I'm just gonna go with like a 3rd round TKO for Kelvin.
Oh wow, you think Kelvin's gonna finish the Reaper?
Yeah, I don't want to go against Robert Whittaker, but sometimes when your gut tells you something, you just got to go with it. And,
listen, I'm not going to change my bet, but listen, plus 210 odds for somebody like Kelvin Gastelum. This is definitely a winnable fight for Kelvin Gastelum.
For sure.
Like I said, he doesn't get finished. He's as tough as they come. He's the embodiment of the great Mexican warriors, the great Mexican boxers, the Julio Cesar Chavez, and all of those legend warriors that came out of Mexico. And so he's no different. He's the next generation. He just happens to be competing in MMA and not boxing, but he's got a chin of granite.
He does. And another thing about Kelvin is I feel like after a couple of those really tough losses against the best in the world, he was starting to question himself. Am I over the hump? Am I past my prime? Am I not able to compete anymore? Have I lost my love for the game, my passion? And I feel like that sense of, he got his win over Ian Heinisch, and I feel like that was really good for him. It boosted his confidence a little bit, made him go, you know what, let's not overthink all this stuff. I'm still one of the best martial artists in the division and on the planet. Let me just, string together a few more wins again, and I could probably get to that title shot that I've always wanted, or get to that belt that I really want. And so I feel like we're almost going to see a resurgence of Kelvin Gastelum, especially if he can get a victory against Robert Whittaker this weekend.
No doubt. And I would love to see that rematch with Izzy. That would be really, really something.
Izzy, I mean, that was the most beat up Izzy's ever been. And you see him after like the Paulo Costa fight, he looks like he just took a shower. But the one with Kelvin Gastelum, there was like memes and stuff where he looked all kinds of beat up. And so, I would definitely love to see them run that one back again. No matter who wins this fight, the rematch will be very exciting.
Absolutely. Guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Let us know in the comments, who do you think is going to win? Is it going to be Robert Whittaker, or is Kelvin Gastelum having a nice career resurgence just before his 30th birthday? We love chatting with you guys in the comments, so keep them coming. As always, if you've enjoyed the content, please like, comment, and subscribe. It helps us out tremendously. And check us out on audio where you listen to those podcasts. Until the next one, have a great day.
Peace.